Space was silent in Sector 9, just cold stars and floating rocks. Captain Dallin sat in his small ship, the Iron Raven, scanning for anything valuable. He was a scavenger, not a hero, not a soldier, just a man looking for scrap to sell. Suddenly, his screen blinked red. Unidentified object detected, his ship's AI spoke. Dallin leaned forward. "Show me." A small pod was drifting near a dead moon. It looked old, damaged, half-burned. But there was a weak energy signal coming from it. "Could be trash," Dallin said to himself. "Or something worth credits." He turned his ship toward the wreck. As he got closer, he saw the pod was cracked open, metal bent and blackened. Through the window, something moved. Dallin frowned. "Life sign? That can't be right." He docked with the pod carefully. The AI warned him again. "Unknown biological reading. Proceed with caution." The door of the pod was jammed. Dallin used a plasma cutter to slice it open. Smoke hissed out. The air inside was cold and dry. In the corner of the pod, curled up like a dying animal, was a figure. Thin, barely breathing. Skin pale blue, stretched tight over bones. It was a girl. Or at least it looked like one. Alien. Her body was covered in cuts. Her hair was silver, tangled and dusty. She didn't move. Dallin's first thought was to leave her. He didn't need trouble. He didn't need some alien dying on his ship, but then her eyes opened, black, empty, full of fear. She didn't speak. Just looked at him, not begging, not angry, just Deadliest. Something pulled at Dallin's chest. He sighed. Damn it. He lifted her gently. She was light, too light, like a skeleton. Her skin was ice cold. Dallin carried her into his ship, placed her on the medical bed. "AI, scan her," he ordered. The AI beeped. "Unknown species. Severe malnutrition. Body in critical state. Recommend immediate treatment." Dallin opened the emergency medical kit. He injected a universal healing serum into her arm. Her body jerked slightly, then went still again. He sat beside her, staring. "Who the hell are you?" he whispered. Hours passed. She didn't move. Dallin stayed near, drinking cheap space coffee, eyes on her weak pulse monitor. He thought about leaving her on the next station, dropping her off. But something felt wrong about that. She wasn't just a passenger, she was different. Later, Dallin went to check the wrecked pod's black box. The data was corrupted. But he managed to recover a short video. A voice spoke in a strange language. The camera showed the girl, younger, healthy, standing inside a lab. Scientists were around her. She looked scared. Then explosions, sirens, screaming. The video cut out. "What were they doing to you?" Dallin asked the screen. Suddenly a sound came from behind him, a breath. A whisper. He turned around fast. The girl was sitting up. Her black eyes stared into his. "You saved me," she said slowly. Her voice was dry, weak, almost broken. "You can talk?" Dallin asked, surprised. She nodded slightly. "Little, yes, learning." Dallin stepped closer. "What happened to you?" She looked away. Her hands were shaking. "Run. Long time, hiding. They want me dead." "Who?" She didn't answer. Her eyes closed again, and she fell back onto the bed. Breathing heavy, Dallin stood there, confused, heart beating fast. He didn't sign up for this. A starving alien girl with unknown enemies? He was just a scavenger, not a hero. But now he was involved. He looked at her again, skin and bones but alive, and afraid whatever happened to her. It wasn't over yet. Then the radar beeped. The AI spoke. "Warning, unknown ship detected, approaching fast. ETA to 4 minutes. Dallin's eyes widened. Are they looking for her? He didn't know, but he had a bad feeling. He ran to the cockpit. Outside in the distance, a dark ship floated toward them. Silent, fast, deadly looking. He looked back at the girl. She was unconscious again. He had a choice to make, leave her or protect her. He cursed under his breath and started the engines. "Strap in, girl," he muttered. "Looks like we're not done yet." The stars outside the Iron Raven looked peaceful, but inside the ship, Captain Dallin was anything but calm. He kept looking over his shoulder. Every few minutes he checked the scanner, that dark ship from earlier. It had vanished. No name. No signal. Just a shadow in the stars. Now he was flying blind through empty space, with a half-dead alien girl lying in his medical room and no idea what to do next. She hadn't woken again. Her body was weak, healing slowly. But it wasn't her body. That bothered Dallin. It was his dreams. They had started the moment he brought her on board. They weren't normal dreams. They felt real. Too real. In the first one, he saw a red planet, cracked and burning. People were screaming. Strange towers were falling. The sky was full of smoke and fire. And in the middle of it stood the girl, calm, glowing, watching. Everything burn. Dallin woke up sweating. He blamed stress. Or maybe guilt. He told himself to ignore it, but the next night it happened again. This time, he was floating in a black room, no gravity, no sound. And then, the girl appeared in front of him. Her eyes were glowing blue. Her voice echoed without sound. Don't trust them. Dallin sat up in bed, heart pounding. Who the hell are you? He whispered to the darkness. He walked down the narrow hallway to the medical room. The lights were dim. The girl, still unconscious, breathed slowly, lips slightly parted. He stared at her. Thin, fragile, but somehow not helpless. The dream voice still rang in his ears. Don't trust them. Don't trust who? He asked, even though he knew she wouldn't answer. The next morning, Dallin tried to distract himself with repairs. The ship's left thruster was still overheating. He crawled under the panel and started reconnecting loose wires. Suddenly, a loud click echoed through the corridor. He froze. That wasn't a mechanical sound. It was a door. He climbed out fast and rushed toward the sound. The medical room door was wide open, empty. She's gone, he muttered. He grabbed his stun pistol and moved through the ship slowly. AI, locate passenger. The AI responded. Lifeform detected. Cargo bay. Dallin cursed and ran. The cargo bay was cold and dark. Crates floated in 0G. Tools scattered on the floor. And then he saw her. She stood near a crate, her back turned to him. Her long, silver hair floated around her shoulders. She was humming. It was soft, almost like a lullaby. A sad, lonely melody. He didn't know what to say. She turned slowly. Her black eyes met his. I dreamed of you, she said, voice stronger than before. Dallin stepped back. You've been inside my head, she nodded. Easier than speaking. Safer. He pointed his stun pistol at the floor. What do you want from me? Nothing, she said softly. I just didn't want to die alone. Silence hung between them. Dallin lowered the pistol. You said not to trust them. Who? She walked past him slowly, fingers brushing over metal crates. The ones who follow. They wear faces, but have no souls. They made me what I am. Dallin followed her. You're saying they created you? She turned to face him. Yes. I was part of a test, a weapon, but I escaped. Dallin stared at her. A weapon? She looked down. Not by choice. He didn't know what to believe. But the fear in her eyes was real. The pain in her voice wasn't fake. You still haven't told me your name, he said. She smiled, just a little. Lyra, Dallin nodded. Lyra, I'm Dallin. Welcome aboard the worst ship in the galaxy. Her smile faded. You shouldn't have saved me. He raised an eyebrow. Why? She pointed toward the main window. Because they're already here. The lights flickered. The AI voice spoke up. Warning, external ship detected. No transponder, no response to hails. Docking. In progress. Dallin's stomach dropped. He rushed to the cockpit. The dark ship had returned, closer now. Docking claws were reaching out, grabbing onto the Iron Raven. Shields up! He shouted. Too late. A loud clang echoed through the ship as the enemy. Ship locked in. AI, prepare jump. Dallin barked. Jump drive offline, the system replied. External interference detected. Lyra appeared beside him, calm but pale. They jammed your systems, she said quietly. Great, Dallin muttered. Any other bad news? She looked at him serious. If they find me, they'll kill. You too. The docking tunnel hissed open. Dallin grabbed his pistol. Then I guess we don't let them find you. Lyra reached out and touched his arm. In an instant, his vision blurred, and a new dream rushed into his mind. This time, he saw a lab. He saw her, younger. Strapped to a table, he saw men in white coats injecting her with glowing liquid, and then he saw her change. Her body lit up, her bones cracked. Her skin shimmered like starlight. A power he didn't understand burst from her, and the entire lab exploded. Dallin gasped and pulled away. "What? What are you?" he asked. Lyra's voice was almost a whisper, something that should not have survived. The Iron Raven sat still in the docking grip of the strange black ship. Inside, Captain Dallin and Lyra stood frozen. Outside the airlock, something moved. The metal tunnel hissed. Lights flickered. The sound of slow, heavy boots echoed. Clank, clank, clank. Dallin raised his stun pistol. His heart beat faster. Lyra stood behind him, quiet, her face pale. Her hand clutched her own arm like she was holding something back, a memory. Or maybe something worse. Then, the door slid open. A tall man stepped through. He wore black armor, scratched and dented. A long coat hung behind him. His helmet was smooth silver, with no eyes, just a dark strip across the front like a dead screen. He didn't speak, he just stood there. Finally, Dallin found his voice. "You're on my ship, uninvited." The man tilted his head slightly. "Captain Dallin," he said. His voice was low, robotic. "You picked up something that doesn't belong to you." Dallin didn't move. "You'll need to be more specific." The man stepped closer. "A subject, female, escaped specimen, dangerous. I have orders to retrieve her." Dallin's jaw tightened. "This is a salvage ship. I found a damaged pod. There was a survivor, that's all." "Hand her over," the man said calmly. "Now." Behind Dallin, Lyra stepped forward slowly. The bounty hunter's head turned toward her. "Target confirmed." He said. Lyra didn't run. She didn't scream. She just looked at him. "You remember me?" she asked softly. The man didn't answer, but Dallin saw it. The way he paused. The way his fingers twitched near his weapon. "You were there," Lyra whispered. "When they locked me in the tank." The hunter raised his weapon. Dallin fired. First, the stun blast hit the hunter in the chest, but he barely moved. His armor absorbed the shot like dust on a window. He aimed and fired. Dallin ducked. The plasma bolt missed his head by inches. The wall behind him exploded in sparks. "Run!" he shouted to Lyra. They both dove behind cover. The hunter moved slowly, calmly, like a machine with no fear. "He's not just a soldier," Lyra said, breathing hard. "He's enhanced. They made him like me." "You mean strong?" "I mean broken." The hunter's voice echoed through the hall. "There is no escape. Your property." Experiment 11, classified bioweapon. Lyra clenched her fists. Her body began to glow slightly, a soft blue light under her skin. Dallin looked at her. "You're doing that light thing again." "I can stop him," she said, standing up. "Wait." Dallin tried to stop her, but she stepped into the open. The hunter raised his weapon, but she raised her hand first. A shockwave burst from her palm. The hunter was thrown back into the docking tunnel, his body slamming into the wall. Sparks flew. The lights went out for a second. Silence. Then a groan. Metal creaked. The hunter moved again. Dallin pulled Lyra back. "That didn't stop him," he said. "Just slowed him down. Then we run." They sprinted down the corridor. Dallin slammed a button on the wall. The blast door shut behind them with a loud clang. "Aye, aye," he shouted. "Decouple us from the docking tunnel." "Command denied," the AI replied. "Foreign override in place." "He hacked the system," Dallin growled. Lyra grabbed his arm. "We need to leave this ship." He looked at her like she was crazy. "Leave? It's the only thing keeping us alive." She leaned closer. "There's an escape pod below deck. Your ship won't last, but I can keep us hidden." Dallin hesitated. More footsteps echoed behind them. He made his choice. They ran down the ladder, past storage, into the escape pod bay. Dallin had never used it. Most scavengers died before they ever needed escape pods. He opened the hatch. The pod was small, barely room for two. Old, rusty, but functional. They climbed inside. Lyra placed her hand on the control panel. The screen flickered. then glowed bright. "What are you doing?" Dallin asked, "Masking our signal. Since when can you do that?" She looked at him. "Since always. I just didn't know I could. Until now." The pod launched, the stars spun outside the small window. The Iron Raven grew smaller behind them. Dallin watched as the black ship started cutting into his precious ship. His home. Gone. He leaned back. "You're a magnet for death, you know that?" He said. Lyra didn't answer. She stared out into space. "Where do we go now?" he asked. "There's a place," she said. "Far, hidden, they don't know about it. And you think we'll be safe there?" "No," she said quietly. "But we'll have time." Dallin sighed. "Time to do what?" Lyra looked at him. "To decide what kind of monster I want to be." The escape pod floated silently through deep space. Inside, Captain Dallin sat across from Lyra. Neither spoke. Stars passed like cold fireflies beyond the small window. The pod was cramped, filled with flickering lights and humming wires. Every few seconds, Dallin's hand twitched near his weapon, not because he wanted to use it, but because he didn't know if he'd need to. Lyra hadn't moved in hours. She just sat still, eyes closed, breathing steady. Then something strange happened. The pod grew warmer, but only around her. A faint glow started to spread beneath her skin, like gentle blue lightning under the surface. Dallin watched in silence. "You're doing it again," he said. Lyra opened her eyes. "I can't stop it this time. What's happening to you?" She looked at her hands. "My body is repairing itself. Faster now." "It's part of the design. I didn't ask for it." Dallin frowned. "What do you mean, design?" She hesitated. "They didn't just test me, they changed me." "Changed? How?" Lyra raised her hand. The blue light flowed through her fingers. Her skin shimmered, smooth and glowing. The bones that once poked through her arms were gone now. Her body, once thin and weak, was beginning to take shape again. Strong, elegant, and strange. "They used something ancient," she continued, "from another world. They said it was beauty from a forgotten species. I was their project, half science, half dream." Dallin shifted uncomfortably. "You're saying they engineered you to look like that?" She nodded. "They wanted something seductive, something perfect, but they didn't realize. They were creating something they couldn't control." Dallin looked away. He wasn't sure what disturbed him more, the way she was changing, or the way he was reacting to it. He wasn't blind. Lyra was becoming beautiful. Unnaturally beautiful. Her voice, her movements, her face, it all looked too perfect, like a painting come to life. But there was sadness in her too. A loneliness that never left her eyes. "I didn't want this," she whispered. Dallin nodded. "Yeah, I believe you." The pod beeped suddenly. They both looked up. "Approaching atmosphere," the AI said. "Landing in 3 minutes." Outside, a small planet appeared, green and gray, covered in clouds and thick fog. It had no official name. Just a number, X17L, a forgotten rock in a forgotten part of the galaxy. Dallin looked at Lyra. "You sure this is the place?" She nodded. "There's an old research outpost here, abandoned. We can hide there." The pod entered the atmosphere. Flames licked the glass as they descended. The landing was rough. The pod bounced once, then slid into soft dirt and came to a stop. They climbed out. The air was thick, cool, and smelled like wet metal. Trees with silver bark rose around them. Strange glowing insects floated through the mist. "Charming place," Dallin muttered. Lyra led the way. Her steps were silent, graceful. Dallin followed, pistol in hand, eyes scanning the trees. Soon they reached it, an old metal structure half buried in vines. Doors rusted. "Lights dead." Lyra touched a panel near the entrance. The door buzzed, then opened with a hiss. Inside, the air was stale, but breathable. Computers lined the walls. Broken lights flickered, but it was shelter. "And quiet," Dallin said. Down his gear. "We stay here for now," he said. "No signals. No contact. We stay invisible." Lyra sat on the floor. Her body glowed softly in the dark. He noticed something, then her eyes. They were no longer black. Now, they shimmered silver with blue rings. like tiny galaxies spinning in her gaze. "You're changing fast," he said. She looked at her hands. "It's accelerating. I feel stronger, but not just my body. My mind, too. Memories are coming back, emotions, words, feelings I don't understand." Dallin looked at her carefully. "Is it still you in there?" She smiled faintly. "I hope so." He sat beside her. A long silence passed between them. Then she asked, "Do you think I'm dangerous?" Dallin sighed. "I think you're becoming something none of us understand. But I don't think you're evil. Not yet." Her smile faded. "That's the part that scares me." Suddenly, a sharp beep echoed from Dallin's wrist console. Signal. He frowned. "That's impossible." He checked the screen. "A nearby frequency. Weak, short pulse. Lyra leaned over. "That's not random. That's a coded ping." "Military format." Dallin stood up fast. "We've been found?" Lyra stood too. "No, they don't know where we are, yet, but someone's searching. Close." Dallin grabbed his gear. "Then we get ready." "For what?" she asked. He looked at her glowing form. "For whatever you're about to become." The storm outside the outpost had lasted 3 days. Rain fell in thick sheets. Strange lightning crackled in slow motion across the green sky. The wind howled through broken vents, but inside the silence felt heavier. Dallin sat alone in the control room, eyes on a cracked screen. He was replaying the signal again and again. The short pulse from orbit. Not enough to trace, not strong enough to identify, but it was close, too close, behind him. Lyra stood in the doorway. "You've watched it 50 times, she said softly. He didn't turn around. "And I'll watch it 50 more. "Someone is looking for you." "For us," she corrected. Dallin sighed. "Right." There was a pause. Then her voice changed, quieter, more serious. "I haven't told you everything." Now he turned. "I figured," he said. "You glow in the dark, speak in dreams, and can destroy walls with your hands. Pretty sure there's more." Lyra walked slowly into the room. Her steps were soundless. Her face was calm, but her eyes, those strange, silver blue eyes, held something heavy. "There's a reason they're hunting me," she said. "It's not just because I escaped. It's because I carry something." Old? Dallin asked. She nodded. "Before the current galactic order, before the wars, there was another civilization. Older than any map. Their people didn't build empires, they built memories, living ones, stored inside biology." Dallin narrowed his eyes. "You're saying they stored information? In their DNA?" "Yes," she said, "and I am one of them, or at least a copy." He stared at her. "You're not just a science project." "No, I'm a vessel." "For what?" Lyra closed her eyes. "For a history the galaxy tried to erase." She raised her hand and a projection of stars appeared in the air. No device, just light from her skin. The image showed constellations Dallin didn't recognize. "Stars that weren't in any current charts? This was once a galaxy full of harmony," she said. "No war, no empire. Just shared memory, everyone connected through thought." Dallin looked at the glowing stars. "And then?" She pointed at a single red star. "Then they came, the first breakers. Machines built by those who wanted control, not unity. They hunted down the memory carriers and wiped them out." He looked at her. "Except one," she nodded. "I'm not the original. I'm a reconstruction, a last backup, hidden in genetics stored in the lab. They didn't even know what they had until I woke up." Dallin leaned against the wall. "So what you're saying is, you're walking around with the mind of an ancient galaxy in your head." Lyra gave a faint smile. "Something like that." He let out a slow breath. "And if the order gets you?" "They'll erase the truth forever." He looked at her closely. "Why tell me all this now?" She hesitated. "Because you didn't sell me when you had the chance, and because I think you need to decide who you really are." There was a sharp beep from the corner console. Dallin turned quickly. A new signal. This one wasn't weak. It was clear, a message. He pressed play. A voice spoke. Smooth, professional, cold. "This is Commander Vale of the Galactic Order. We know who you're harboring. She is classified property. Return her immediately, and you will not be harmed. You have one cycle. Lyra stepped closer. He's the one who ordered the experiments. You know him? Dallin asked. I remember his voice. He was there. When they activated my mind, he called me ... A containment failure. Dallin clenched his jaw. What happens if I don't give you up? They'll send hunters. Stronger ones. Ones I can't fight. He looked at her. Then we don't let them land. We can't stop them, she said. He smirked. We don't have to stop them. We just have to outsmart them. Lyra tilted her head. What's the plan? Dallin walked to the old outpost terminal. You said your memory holds knowledge? Tech from the past? Yes. Can you access anything useful? Shields? Weapons? Not here, but maybe something better. She knelt beside the console and placed her hands on the panel. Her eyes glowed brighter. Symbols filled the screen, ancient, pulsing with light. Then a soft hum filled the room. What did you do? Dallin asked. I woke the base, she said. Hidden walls shifted. The floor shook. From below, a new chamber opened, glowing softly. What is this? Dallin whispered. She stood up. This outpost is not what it seems. It was never abandoned. It was hidden, a place of memory. Dallin looked down the stairs into the blue-lit chamber. What's down there? Lyra turned to him. The real reason they fear me. Asterisk alarm screamed through the outpost. The sky had turned red. From the hills above, 3 galactic order ships broke through the clouds, sharp, black and fast. They moved like predators, scanning the valley below for one target. Lyra. Inside the hidden chamber, Captain Dallin stared at the glowing walls. What is this place? He asked, eyes wide. Lyra stood in the center of the room. Symbols lit up around her, floating in the air like living thoughts. She placed her hand on a central crystal. This is a memory core, she said. It stores knowledge. Not data, thoughts passed down from my people. Dallin glanced at the screen on his wrist. We don't have time for history lessons. Lyra didn't stop. Her eyes had gone fully silver now. I can use this. I can access something that might help us escape. Outside, the first ship fired. A blast of energy hit the mountainside, shaking the outpost. Rocks fell. Dust poured from the ceiling. Dallin grabbed her arm. Now, Lyra. The light surged. Suddenly. The floor beneath them lit up. A glowing path of light shot across the outpost, straight into a hidden docking bay. A ship was waiting. Dallin blinked. Where the hell did that come from? Lyra's voice was calm. It was buried until I remembered how to call it. They ran. The new ship was sleek, alien in design, pulsing with soft blue light. It looked grown, not built, alive in some way. Dallin climbed into the cockpit. The controls responded to his touch, adjusting instantly. Lyra joined him. It's called a veil ship. It bends light. Makes us hard to track. Dallin powered it up. I love this thing already. Outside, the Order's ground troops had landed. Black armored soldiers rushed toward the outpost, weapons ready. One of them raised a scanner. She's moving fast. They opened fire. Too late. The veil ship lifted off with a silent hum and burst through the roof of the outpost, disappearing into the storm clouds above. Inside the cockpit, Dallin held tight to the controls. Hold on! The ship turned sharp. Diving through jagged cliffs and deep canyons, 2 Order fighters gave chase, lasers slicing through the fog behind them. Brace! Lyra shouted. The veil ship spun sideways, passing between 2 massive rock spires. One of the Order ships crashed. Fire bloomed in the clouds, but the second stayed close. Dallin looked at the rear display. He's locking on. Lyra placed her hand on the panel again. The ship shimmered. Suddenly they were gone, not just invisible, vanished from space for a moment, like slipping between 2 pages in a book. The chasing fighter flew through empty air when the veil ship reappeared. Was miles away, safe. Dallin stared at Lyra. You just folded space. She nodded. Only short distances. It's all the ship can do for now. He leaned back, breathing hard. Remind me never to argue with you. The ship leveled out, floating quietly above a sea of clouds. Lyra looked out the window, her face serious. They'll keep coming. Dallin nodded. I know. They won't stop until they erase me, and you too, he looked at her. Then we don't give them that chance. Lyra turned to him. You don't have to stay. You've already risked your life. Dallin gave a tired smile. I didn't sign up for this, Lyra, but now that I'm here, I want to see how it ends. She blinked, and for a moment something human passed through her face, soft, grateful, then the ship beeped. A signal, not a threat, something else. Emergency broadcast, Dallin said. Open channel. A voice came through, static, broken, but real. If anyone can hear this, we are survivors. Hiding near planet G3. The Order is hunting anyone who resists. We need help. The message repeated. Lyra whispered, There are others. Dallin looked at her. They could be just like you. No, she said. Worse, they could be like the hunter. Then we find out? Lyra walked to the front of the ship and sat beside him. The Veil ship can take us there. But it'll be dangerous. Dallin nodded. Good, I was getting bored. They both smiled, tired, uncertain, but alive. As the ship turned toward a new star, Lyra reached into her mind again, new memories unlocked, flashes of light, words from voices long dead. A song without sound. A war no one remembered, she touched. The wall beside her. The ship pulsed with light. It knew the way, and somewhere, far beyond the void, secrets waited, buried deep in forgotten stars, but for now they flew, not running anymore. Searching. The stars felt colder now. Captain Dallin stood alone on a balcony inside the ancient space station orbiting G3, a ghost planet with no cities, no life, just silence. The survivors' signal had led them here, but what they found was not what they expected. Not people. Not fighters, just a room, a dark, quiet room full of old machines and one glowing chair. Behind him, Lyra stepped forward. Her eyes, now almost entirely silver, flickered in the dim light. This is the final node, she said softly. The last piece of the memory chain. Dallin looked at the chair. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. And what happens if you connect? Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then I see everything. I remember everything. And what happens to you? She met his eyes. I don't know. Dallin turned away. That's not an answer I can live with. She walked beside him. Her body no longer looked fragile or alien. She looked human. Perfectly human. But he knew it was only a mask made by design by the long-dead scientists who wanted her to be something beautiful and controllable. You said before, he whispered, you didn't ask for this. She nodded. I didn't. Then don't sit in that chair. But I have to. He looked at her again. Why? Because this was never about me surviving, she said. It was about me remembering. All of me, all of them. She stepped closer to the chair. Dallin grabbed her hand. Lyra. We can run, we have a ship, we can hide, she smiled gently. For how long? I don't care, but I do. She let go of his hand. The Order isn't afraid of me because I'm strong, she said. They're afraid of the truth? I carry. If I remember who I really am, I can share it. Broadcast it, wake others, burn their lies down to the roots. Dallin didn't speak, because he understood if she connected with the node. She wouldn't be Lyra anymore. She would become something else, the last voice of a dead civilization. She sat in the chair, light wrapped around her body like vines of starlight. The room came alive, walls lit up with symbols, voices echoed in dozens of forgotten languages. Dallin took a step back as the air shimmered with ancient power. Lyra's body arched slightly. Her mouth opened. She wasn't screaming. She was singing, a deep, soft melody that didn't need words. It moved through the metal floor and into Dallin's bones. He saw images in the air, galaxies forming, peaceful worlds rising and then falling one by one. Under the shadow of the Order, she was remembering everything. Then the light stopped. Lyra lowered her head when she looked at Dallin again. Her eyes weren't silver anymore. They were golden. She stood slowly, carefully, but something about her had changed. She moved like time itself lived inside her. Lyra? He asked. Her voice was layered now, 100 voices in one. I am not Lyra anymore, she said. Lyra was the vessel. I am the memory that survived. He stepped back. Are you... Still you? Part of her face softened. Yes, but also... No, I remember being her. I also remember being thousands of others. She walked toward a console and placed her hand on it. The station pulsed. A massive wave of energy burst outward, invisible to the eye, but not to the stars. They'll feel that, Dallin whispered. She nodded. They already have. Suddenly, red lights flashed across the console. Galactic Order fleet incoming, the computer said. 4 destroyers. Estimated arrival, 6 minutes. Dallin turned to her. Then we run. We still have the Veil ship. She looked at him sadly. You... Do what? I can't leave this place, she said. I am part of the node now. If I disconnect, everything is lost again. He stared at her. No, she walked to him, took his hand. Pressed something into his palm. It was a crystal, glowing. Warm, alive. This holds everything, she said. The memory. The truth. You must take it. Find others. Help them remember. No, I'm not leaving you behind, she smiled. You already saved me, Dallin, more than once. He shook his head. I don't care about the memory. I care about you. I know, she whispered. That's why I trust you. The station trembled. The first ship had entered orbit. Lyra leaned forward and kissed his forehead. One last human moment. Then she stepped back into the chair. Go, she said. He stared at her. Then turned and ran. The Veil ship launched moments later, just as the first plasma beam struck the side of the station. Inside the chair, Lyra remained still, but in the stars, something was changing. One voice had become many, and they would not be silent anymore.